What is sociology? Like, what the heck have you signed up for? Um, Students, I think a lot of times when they sign up for Introduction to Sociology, you have some idea, you think, right? I think so. But do you know for sure? Because sociology still is not terribly, I think, widely known. When I ask this question in on-campus classes, like in person in a classroom, I usually have a bunch of students look back at me, a little perplexed, and always hesitant to answer questions, right? Because that, especially at the beginning of class. But sometimes, actually fairly often, their answer is actually a question, and it usually sounds like psychology. And, is that what it is? And while it has definitely some things in common with psychology, sociology is on a larger scale. Psychology is about an individual, about a lot of times their relationships. A lot of psychology is about the brain, right? Sociology is a social science. We are studying society, large scale phenomenon in society. And I explain this and try and illustrate it to students in probably kind of a quirky way. So here we go. An 8 box of crayons. So what colors are in here? Just a very, very simple box, like the smallest little box of 8 crayons. So red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. I love rainbow order, so that makes me really happy. I think it's black and brown then. So I could hand you this box of crayons and have you draw anything. You could draw anything. I can't, I mean, it might not be good. If I drew something, it would be terrible. You'd be like, what is that again? But you could do it. And that's kind of the way that our lives work in relation to sociology. Like, you don't need it. You will be perfectly fine not taking a sociology class because you already know about society because you live in it. You grew up in it. You will always be a member of society. Everything in society. You know how it works for the most part, right? Because you will go through it. You know how school works, the education system works. You've gone through it. You know how the family works. You have one. Granted, families are all different shapes and sizes, right? It's not that everybody's families are identical by any means. And quite honestly, many of ours have a lot of things that are unique to our family. But that idea of the family, the idea of the economy or religion, things along those lines, like you know them all because you're in society, you live it. So basically, I just told you, you don't need to take sociology, you're fine. So, am I really selling this class? Not terribly, but let's talk about what happens when you do take a sociology class. You ready? There it is. There's all the crayons, like with a sharpener built into the back, right? When was the last time you opened up a 64 box of crayons? Can you remember how like they would do the colors that were like yellow, green, but then they'd also have green, yellow, orange, red, red, orange. There's so many more options now. There's salmon and olive and sunshine and tropical island blue and all these different nuanced, right? Detailed opportunities to create something. That's the way that sociological knowledge works. Technically, you don't need it, but when you have it, the world looks really, really different. You see the complexities, you see the inequalities, you see the impact that society has on yourself and individuals. We act a lot of times like we make all our decisions, and yeah, we do. But when you start to think about the impact of society, it's very, very much there. So here's the super cheesy line. Are you ready? Sociology makes your life. I can't even say it with it straight. Not that you see my face. Here, I'll try again. So, well, last time. Sociology makes our lives more colorful. See, I told you it was cheesy. So, other things to keep in mind as we study sociology. Never assume anything. What happens? Do you know what happens when we make assumptions? Do you see right there how assume is spelled ASSUME? You know what's coming, right? It'll make an ass out of you and me. Like we oftentimes make so many different assumptions about things. And sociological learning a lot of times is about breaking down those assumptions. The other part of it is having humility. You're going to realize in some ways as we learn more about society that maybe the way that you saw various scenarios and situations and behaviors and opportunities wasn't necessarily fair to everybody. Like a lot of times we have to be really, really humble as we learn sociology because we're going to kind of realize maybe, I don't know necessarily if we have it right or wrong, but like the thoughts and assumptions and knowledge and motivations that we had might not realize the impact on others. And then finally, oh, are we going to be like perpetual 3-year-olds this semester? Like, why? Why? Why is the sky blue? Why were the dinosaurs? Like, why? So that's a question I would love to have you really get almost sick of in this class. But stop and ask yourself why. Why do we do what we do? Why are we motivated by the way that we're motivated? Why do we like what we like? Why do our siblings do something totally different than us? Why? Like, get ready to try and question everything around you. So, again, sociology, these are things we're going to be covering: research, socialization, gender, race, inequalities, family, education. It's pretty darn cool. I I wanted to be a teacher for a very, very long time. And there was no subject that I really, really loved learning that much. Like, I would have loved to be a high school teacher, but I didn't want to be an English major. I didn't want to be a math major. I didn't want to be a science major, history major, anything else. It was when I found sociology that I was like, oh my goodness, this is fascinating. And anytime a student thinks, wow, this is really interesting, it's just because we're lucky enough to get to study life around us.